Welcome to Starbound, where every star tells a story. Today, humanity will take our thrill-seeking nature and put it on full display for the galaxy to see. The only thing we need is a dying star. Also, check and make sure you're subscribed today, because if you're not, do it. It's totally free. But now, let's get into the story. Humanity has spread across the stars, colonizing planets and establishing trade routes throughout the galaxy. Yet even with the vastness of space at their fingertips, some humans yearn for something more, a thrill that transcends the ordinary. They are the Sun Surfers, a group of daredevils known for their audacious stunts and insatiable appetite for danger. Their reputation precedes them, whispered in hushed tones in the dim-lit corners of spaceports and asteroid mining colonies. Some consider them heroes, pushing the boundaries of human potential, while others dismiss them as reckless fools, flirting with death for fleeting glory. Their leader, Captain Kai, is a man of few words, but unwavering resolve. His chiseled face bears the scars of countless near-death experiences, each a badge of honor that speaks volumes about his indomitable spirit. He has assembled a crew of like-minded individuals, each with their own unique skills and motivations for embracing the Sun Surfer's perilous lifestyle. There's Anya, the brilliant astrophysicist, whose insatiable curiosity about the universe drives her to explore its most dangerous corners. Her nimble fingers dance across complex control panels, her mind constantly calculating trajectories and analyzing data. Jax, the seasoned pilot, is a master of his craft, capable of navigating the treacherous currents of solar winds with unparalleled precision. His weathered hands grip the controls with a steady confidence, his eyes scanning the ever-changing landscape of the star's surface. And then there's Finn, the enigmatic engineer, whose genius knows no bounds. He is the architect of the Sun Surfer's incredible technology, constantly pushing the limits of what is possible. His workshop is a labyrinth of wires, circuits, and half-finished inventions, each a testament to his relentless pursuit of innovation. Together, they form an unlikely family, bound by their shared love of adrenaline and their unwavering belief in the boundless potential of the human spirit. The Sun Surfer's latest challenge is their most ambitious yet, to ride the solar winds of a dying star, a celestial spectacle that promises to be both breathtaking and deadly. The star, known as Helios 7, is in its final stages of life, its core collapsing under its own immense gravity. Its outer layers are being ejected into space, creating a maelstrom of superheated plasma and radiation. To the Sun Surfers, this is not a threat, but an opportunity. They have designed a specialized craft, the Sol Invictus, specifically for this mission. It is a marvel of engineering, equipped with advanced shielding, a powerful propulsion system, and a state-of-the-art navigation system. As they prepare for a launch, a sense of anticipation fills the air. The crew meticulously checks every system, their faces etched with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They know the risks, but they also are driven by an unyielding desire to push the boundaries of human exploration. The Sol Invictus blasts off from its launch pad, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. It soars through the vast expanse of space, its destination the heart of the dying star. As they approach Helios 7, the crew is greeted by a sight that takes their breath away. The star's surface is a swirling mass of fiery tendrils, dancing and twisting in a mesmerizing display of cosmic fury. Kai takes the controls, his eyes fixed on the star's chaotic surface. He guides the Sol Invictus into the heart of the storm, the craft bucking and weaving as it rides the solar winds. The crew holds on tight, their bodies pressed against their seats as they are subjected to G-forces that threaten to crush them. Despite the danger, a sense of exhilaration fills the cockpit. The Sun Surfers are in their element, pushing themselves and their technology to the limit. They're riding the edge of the unknown, and they wouldn't have it any other way. As the Sol Invictus plunges deeper into the star's atmosphere, the turbulence intensifies. The craft is battered by waves of superheated plasma, its shields glowing with an intense white light as they deflect the onslaught of radiation. Inside the cockpit, the crew is pushed to their limits. The G-forces make it difficult to breathe, and their bodies ache with the strain of holding on. Anya monitors the craft's systems, her fingers flying across the control panels.
"Shields holding steady,"
she reports, her voice strained but determined.
"But the radiation levels are off the charts! We need to find a way to mitigate the exposure!"
Finn nods, his eyes glued to a series of holographic displays.
"I'm working on it!"
He grunts, his fingers dancing across a keyboard.
"But it's gonna take some time! We need to buy ourselves some breathing room!"
Jax leans forward, his eyes scanning the star's surface.
"I'm seeing a potential path through this chaos,"
he says, pointing to a relatively calm patch of plasma. It's a long shot, but it might give us a chance to regroup. Kai nods. Let's take it, he orders, his voice barely audible over the roar of the solar winds. Jax expertly maneuvers the Sol Invictus through the turbulent plasma, dodging fiery tendrils and navigating through narrow gaps in the star's atmosphere. The craft is pushed to its limits, its engines straining to maintain control. After what seems like an eternity, they reach the calmer patch of plasma. The turbulence subsides, and the craft is able to stabilize. The crew takes a collective sigh of relief, their bodies aching but their spirits unbroken. Finn continues to work on the radiation problem, his brow furrowed in concentration. Anya monitors the star's activity, her eyes searching for any signs of danger. Jax keeps a watchful eye on the craft's systems, ready to react to any sudden changes. As the crew regroups, they begin to notice something strange. The star's activity is not as random as they had expected. There seems to be a pattern to the eruptions and flares, a rhythm that suggests a hidden intelligence at work. Anya is the first to voice her suspicions.
I'm detecting a strange energy signature, she says, her voice filled with wonder. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Finn leans over her shoulder, his eyes widening as he examines the data.
It's almost like the star is communicating with us,
he whispers. The crew exchanges a look of disbelief. Could it be possible? Could the dying star be sentient? Kai breaks the silence. We need to investigate, he says, his voice filled with determination. This could be the discovery of a lifetime. The Sun Surfers alter their course, steering the Sol Invictus towards the source of the energy signature. As they draw closer, the anomaly reveals itself. A massive swirling vortex of energy pulsating with an otherworldly glow. It's a sight that defies explanation, a cosmic enigma that beckons them closer. Anya's voice trembles with excitement as she analyzes the data streaming in from the craft's sensors.
It's incredible, she whispers. The energy readings are off the scale. It's like nothing we've ever encountered before.
Finn nods, his eyes glued to the holographic displays.
It's almost like the stars reaching out to us,
he says, his voice barely a whisper. Kai grips the controls, his knuckles white with tension.
Whatever it is, we need to be careful,
he says, his voice a low growl.
This could be dangerous.
The Sol Invictus approaches the vortex cautiously, its shields raised to maximum power as they draw closer. The energy intensifies, washing over the craft like a tidal wave. The crew is momentarily blinded by the intense light, their senses overwhelmed by the sheer power of the anomaly. When their vision clears, they're met with a sight that leaves them speechless. The vortex has opened up, revealing a swirling tunnel of energy that seems to stretch on forever. It's a gateway to the unknown, a cosmic invitation that beckons them to explore its depths. A sense of awe and wonder fills the cockpit. The Sun Surfers have stumbled upon something truly extraordinary, a discovery that could change the course of human history. But they also know that this is a dangerous gamble. The vortex could be a trap, a deadly lure that could lead them to their doom. Kai turns to his crew, his eyes searching their faces for any sign of hesitation. Are you with me? He asks, his voice steady and resolute. Anya nods without hesitation.
Always,
she says, her voice filled with unwavering confidence. Jax grins, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Wouldn't miss it for the world, he says, his voice barely a whisper. Finn nods silently, his eyes fixed on the vortex. His face a mask of concentration, his mind already racing with possibilities. With a deep breath, Kai guides the Sol Invictus into the vortex. The craft is enveloped in a blinding light, and for a moment, they're lost in the swirling chaos of energy. When they emerge on the other side, they find themselves in a realm unlike anything they've ever seen before. The stars are a kaleidoscope of colors, swirling and shifting in a mesmerizing dance. Nebula, vast clouds of gas and dust shimmer with an ethereal light, their tendrils reaching out like cosmic fingers. The Sol Invictus drifts through this celestial wonderland, its crew awestruck by the sheer beauty of their surroundings. They're like children in a candy store, their eyes wide with wonder as they take in the sights. Anya is the first to break the silence.
It's magnificent,
she breathes, her voice filled with awe.
I've never seen anything like it.
Jax nods in agreement, his eyes glued to the viewport.
It's like we've entered another dimension,
he says, his voice barely a whisper. Finn is silent, his brow furrowed in concentration. He's already analyzing the data streaming in from the craft's sensors, trying to make sense of this new strange reality. As they continue to explore, they discover that this realm is not just a feast for the eyes, it's also a place of immense power, where the laws of physics as they know them seem to bend and twist. Anya detects fluctuations in the fabric of space-time, suggesting the presence of wormholes and other exotic phenomena. Finn discovers that the energy emanating from the stars is far more potent than anything they'd ever encountered before. And Jax discovers that the Sol Invictus is able to travel at speeds that would be impossible in their own universe. The Sunsurfers are like explorers in a new world, the senses overwhelmed by the possibilities that this realm presents. They are eager to learn more, to unravel the secrets of this cosmic wonderland. But their exploration is cut short when they detect a new energy signature. This one far more powerful and menacing than anything they've encountered before. It's a dark presence, a lurking shadow that seems to consume the light around it. Kai's voice is grim as he addresses the crew. "We have company," he says, his eyes scanning the starfield. "And it doesn't seem friendly." The Sunsurfers brace themselves for a confrontation, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. They know that they're facing an unknown enemy, a force that could easily overwhelm them, but they also know that they can't back down. They've come too far to turn back now. As the dark presence draws closer, the Sol Invictus is bathed in an eerie red light. The stars around them seem to dim, their light swallowed by the encroaching darkness. The crew grips their weapons, their knuckles white with tension. They're ready to fight, to defend their lives and their discovery, but they also know that they're facing a power far greater than their own. The battle for survival has begun. The dark presence manifests as a gargantuan, amorphous entity, its form shifting and writhing like a living shadow. Its energy crackles with a malevolence, sending shivers down the spines of the Sunsurfers. The Sol Invictus shudders as the entity's tendrils brush against its shields, testing their resilience. Kai's voice rings out over the comm system, calm but resolute. "Brace yourselves!" he warns. "This is gonna be a bumpy ride!" The entity unleashes a barrage of energy blasts, each one a searing bolt of pure darkness. The Sol Invictus's shields flare with a blinding light as they absorb the onslaught. Anya works feverishly, rerouting power to reinforce the shields, her fingers dancing across the controls with lightning speed. Jax expertly dodges the incoming attacks, weaving the Sol Invictus through a deadly ballet of energy blasts. The craft groans and shudders as it takes hit after hit, its hull glowing red-hot from the intense heat. Finn, meanwhile, has been working on a counterattack. He's tapped into the Sol Invictus's experimental energy cannon, a weapon designed to harness the raw power of the star's energy. With a final adjustment, he activates the weapon and a beam of pure light erupts from the craft, striking the entity with blinding force. The entity recoils, its form momentarily disrupted by the powerful blast. It lets out a shriek of rage, its tendrils lashing out wildly. The Sol Invictus is caught in the crossfire, its shields flickering as they struggle to contain the onslaught. Inside the cockpit, the crew is battered and bruised, their bodies aching from the constant G-forces, but their spirits remain unbroken. They have faced danger before, and they know that they can overcome this challenge too. Anya's voice is strained but determined as she reports on the damage. "Shields are holding, but they won't last forever. We need to find a weakness." Jax scans the entity, his eyes searching for any sign of vulnerability. "I'm not seeing anything," he grunts, his voice filled with frustration. "It's like it's made of pure energy." Finn's eyes light up with a sudden realization. "Maybe that's it," he says, his voice filled with excitement. "If it's made of energy, then maybe we could disrupt it with our own." He quickly modifies the energy cannon, tuning it to a different frequency. With a final adjustment, he fires another blast, this time targeting the entity's core. The blast hits its mark, sending shockwaves through the entity's form. It writhes and shudders, its energy fluctuating wildly. The Sunsurfers press their advantage, unleashing a continuous barrage of energy blasts, each one weakening the entity's grip on reality. The entity lets out a final, agonizing shriek as it disintegrates into nothingness. The dark presence is gone, leaving behind only a faint echo of its malevolent energy. The Sol Invictus emerges from the battle, battered but victorious. The crew, exhausted but exhilarated, surveys the damage. The craft's hull is scorched and scarred, its shields flickering intermittently, but it's still functional, a testament to the resilience of both the technology and the humans who built it. Kai addresses the crew, his voice filled with pride and gratitude. "We did it," he says, his eyes scanning their faces. "We faced the unknown and came out on top." Anya lets out a shaky laugh, the tension finally leaving her body.
I cannot believe we survived that,
she says, her voice filled with wonder. Jax grins, his eyes gleaming with adrenaline.
"That was one hell of a ride,"
he says, his voice barely a whisper. Finn nods silently, his eyes fixed on the starfield. He's already thinking about the implications of their discovery, the possibilities that it opens up for humanity. The Sun Surfers spend the next few days repairing the Sol Invictus and analyzing the data they collected during their encounter with the entity. They discovered that the entity was not a native of this realm, but rather an interdimensional predator that somehow found its way through the vortex. They also learned that the vortex is not just a portal to another universe, but a conduit of immense power, a source of energy that could revolutionize human civilization. With this knowledge in hand, the Sun Surfers make a decision that will change the course of history. They decide to return to their own universe, carrying with them the secrets of the vortex and the potential to reshape the destiny of humanity. The journey back is fraught with danger, as they must navigate the treacherous currents of the vortex once again, but the Sun Surfers are undeterred. They have faced the unknown before, and they know that they can overcome any obstacle that stands in their way. The Sol Invictus, bearing the scars of its recent battle, limped towards the nearest star system. The crew, physically drained yet invigorated by their triumph, they had decided on a brief respite before returning to Earth, a unanimous decision spurred not by fear, but the thrill of pushing their limits further. "So," Jax drawled, a mischievous glint in his eyes, "anyone up for a little R&R? Finn, ever the engineer, scoffed playfully. "Relaxation? From Sun Surfers? You gotta be joking." Kai, his face still etched with the intensity of their recent ordeal, surprised them with a chuckle. "Jax has a point. A little downtime might do us good before we face the inevitable media frenzy back home." Anya, her brow furrowed in thought, interjected, "While I agree with the sentiment, I propose we combine relaxation with a touch of exploration. After all, we are the Sun Surfers." Her words sparked a renewed energy in the crew. The idea of simply unwinding on a peaceful planet seemed almost an insult to their adventurous spirits. After a brief discussion, they settled on a destination, a newly discovered gas giant with a ring system rumored to contain rare minerals and a peculiar atmospheric anomaly. It was the perfect blend of danger and potential discovery, a challenge that resonated with their insatiable curiosity. Within days, the Sol Invictus patched up and refueled and embarked on a new course. As they approached the gas giant, its sheer size and majestic beauty captivated them. Bands of swirling colors adorned its atmosphere, a testament to the complex chemical reactions occurring within. The ring system, a dazzling array of ice and rock, presented a navigational challenge, but Jax, with his expert piloting skills, maneuvered the Sol Invictus through the labyrinthine paths with ease. "Anya," Kai called out, his voice carrying a hint of urgency. "What's the word on that atmospheric anomaly?" Anya's fingers danced across the controls, her eyes glued to the data feed. "It's strange," she muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The readings are fluctuating wildly. It's like there's a storm brewing within the atmosphere, but it's unlike anything I've ever seen before." Finn, his curiosity piqued, leaned over her shoulder. "Could it be a result of the ring system's gravitational pull?" he mused. "Or perhaps something else entirely?" Before Anya could respond, a sudden tremor shook the Sol Invictus. The craft lurched violently, its alarms blaring. A warning flashed across the main console. "Warning, electromagnetic interference detected." Jax fought to maintain control, his hands gripping the controls with white-knuckled intensity. "What the hell was that?" he growled, his voice strained with effort. Kai's face hardened, his instincts screaming at him that they were in danger. "Whatever it is, we need to get out of here," he ordered, his voice echoing through the cockpit. But as Jax attempted to maneuver the Sol Invictus away from the gas giant, a blinding flash of light enveloped the craft. The crew was momentarily blinded, their ears ringing with the deafening roar of energy. When their vision cleared, they found themselves in a scene of utter chaos. The gas giant's atmosphere was in turmoil, swirling with a fury that dwarfed any storm they'd ever witnessed. The ring system, once a thing of serene beauty, was now a maelstrom of debris hurtling towards the Sol Invictus with deadly intent. The Sol Invictus, caught in the maelstrom, was tossed about like a toy boat in a hurricane. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the crew struggled to maintain their balance as the craft pitched and yawed violently. "Jax!" Kai's voice was barely audible over the deafening roar of the storm. "Get us out of here!" Jax, his face pale but determined, wrestled with the controls, his knuckles white with strain. "I'm trying!" he yelled back, his voice tight with desperation. "But the turbulence is too strong! We're caught in the eye of the storm!" Anya, her face grim, monitored the sensor readings. "The atmospheric pressure is dropping rapidly," she reported. "If we don't get out of here soon, the hull won't be able to withstand the stress." Finn, his mind racing, frantically searched for a solution. "We need to stabilize the craft," he shouted. "If we could just ride out the storm, we might have a chance." He activated the Sol Invictus's emergency thrusters, hoping to counteract the chaotic forces buffeting the craft. For a moment, it seemed to work. The craft steadied, but the respite was short-lived. A massive chunk of debris, a jagged shard of ice the size of a small moon, hurtled towards the Sol Invictus. Jack swerved desperately, but the impact was unavoidable. The debris slammed into the craft's side, ripping through the hull with a deafening screech. A klaxon blared, warning of a hull breach. The crew scrambled to seal the damaged section, but the storm's fury made it nearly impossible. The interior of the craft depressurized rapidly, the air growing thin and cold. Kai's voice, now a hoarse whisper, cut through the chaos. "Abandon the ship! Get to the escape pods now!" The crew, their faces pale with fear, rushed to obey. Anya and Finn made it to one pod, Jax and Kai to another. They sealed the hatches and ejected, moments before the Sol Invictus was torn apart by the storm's relentless fury. The escape pods hurtled through the turbulent atmosphere, battered by debris and buffeted by gale-force winds. The crew, strapped into their seats, braced for impact as the pods plummeted towards the gas giant's surface. The escape pods, battered and bruised, slammed into the turbulent atmosphere of the gas giant. Anya and Finn's pod, its heat shield glowing red-hot, bounced and skipped across the cloud tops, leaving a trail of vaporized gas in its wake. Jax and Kai's pod, its descent even more harrowing, plunged through a lightning storm, the deafening thunder and blinding flashes of light adding to their ordeal. As the pods finally came to rest, a tense silence filled the air. The only sound was the hiss of escaping air as the pressure equalization systems kicked in. Anya, her face pale but determined, was the first to speak. "Is everyone okay?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Finn, his breathing ragged, nodded slowly. "I think so," he croaked. "Just a few bumps and bruises." Jax, his face etched with the strain of their ordeal, let out a low groan. "Remind me to never take a vacation with you guys again," he muttered. Kai, his composure regained, took charge. "Let's assess the situation," he said, his voice calm and authoritative. "We need to figure out where we are and how we get out of here." The pod's communication systems were still functional, allowing the two groups to communicate with each other. They quickly established that they had landed on opposite sides of the gas giant, separated by thousands of miles of turbulent atmosphere. Anya, using the pod's limited sensors, was able to get a rough idea of their location. "We're somewhere in the northern hemisphere," she reported. "The atmosphere is mostly hydrogen and helium, with trace amounts of methane and ammonia. The temperature is not ideal." Finn, his mind already racing with possibilities, interjected. "The methane and ammonia could be useful," he said. "We might be able to synthesize fuel for the pod's thrusters." Jax, ever the pragmatist, scoffed. "That's great in theory," he said. "We need to find a way to survive first. This atmosphere is toxic and the temperature is cold enough to freeze us solid." Kai nodded in agreement. "We need to find shelter," he said, "and we need to find it fast." Anya's pod, relatively unscathed, had landed on a plateau overlooking a vast, swirling vortex of storm clouds. The winds here were less fierce, but the biting cold was a constant threat. Finn, ever the resourceful engineer, quickly devised a makeshift shelter using the pod's emergency blankets and spare parts. They huddled together for warmth, their breath fogging in the frigid air. "We need to find a way to signal Jax and Kai," Anya said, her voice shivering. "They could be in worse shape than we are." Finn nodded, his mind already working on a solution. "The pod's comm system is still operational," he said,
but we'll need to boost the signal to reach him on the other side of the planet.
He set to work cannibalizing parts from the pod's damaged systems and jury-rigging a makeshift amplifier. It was a long shot, but it was their only hope. Meanwhile, Jax and Kai's pod had crash-landed in a swampy lowland region. The atmosphere was thicker here, the air heavy with moisture and the stench of decaying organic matter. The temperature was slightly warmer than on the plateau, but the humidity was suffocating. Jax, his ribs aching from the impact, managed to crawl out of the pod. He surveyed their surroundings, his heart sinking.
"This is not good,"
he muttered, his voice barely audible over the croaking of unseen creatures. Kai, his face grim, nodded in agreement.
"We need to find higher ground," he said. "This swamp is a breeding ground for disease."
They struggled through the dense vegetation, their suits protecting them from the toxic atmosphere, but doing little to alleviate the oppressive heat. Their progress was slow and arduous, their bodies already weakened by the crash. After what seemed like an eternity, they stumbled upon a rocky outcrop rising above the swamp. They clambered up its slippery slopes, their suits clinging to the damp moss. From their vantage point, they could see for miles in every direction. The swamp stretched out as far as the eye could see, a vast, murky expanse broken only by the occasional gnarled tree or bubbling mud pool. Jax, exhausted but relieved, collapsed onto a rock.
"At least we're out of that hellhole," he gasped,
his breath coming in ragged gasps. Kai, ever vigilant, scanned the horizon.
"Don't get too comfortable," he warned. "We're not out of the woods yet."
As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the alien landscape, a faint beeping sound echoed through Anya and Finn's makeshift shelter. Finn, his eyes wide with excitement, rushed to the modified comm system.
"It's Jax!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with relief. "The signal got through!"
Anya grabbed the receiver, her heart pounding with anticipation.
"Jax? Kai? Can you hear us?"
A static-filled voice crackled through the speaker.
"Anya? Finn? Is that you?"
It was Jax, his voice strained but unmistakable.
"We're here, Jax," Anya responded. "We're safe, but we need to find a way off this planet."
Jax's voice grew stronger as Finn adjusted the signal.
"We're alive, but stranded in a swamp. We need to find a way to rendezvous."
The two groups exchanged information about their locations and the challenges they faced. The prospect of traversing the gas giant's treacherous atmosphere and reuniting seemed daunting, but the Sun Servers were not ones to back down from a challenge. Finn, his engineering mind already whirring, devised a plan.
"We can use the pod's remaining fuel to launch a beacon," he explained. "It should be visible from your location. Then we can try to navigate towards you using the pod's thrusters."
Anya nodded in agreement.
"It's a risky plan, but it's our best shot."
They set to work, fashioning a makeshift beacon from the pod's spare parts and wiring it to the comm system. As darkness fell, they launched the beacon, its flickering light piercing the twilight sky. Meanwhile, Jax and Kai had managed to establish a temporary camp on the rocky outcrop. They had salvaged what they could from the damaged pod, including a small supply of emergency rations and a rudimentary survival kit. As they huddled together for warmth, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the beacon, a low growl echoed through the swamp. A pair of glowing eyes emerged from the darkness, followed by the sinuous form of a massive reptilian creature. Its scales shimmered in the moonlight, its razor-sharp claws glinting menacingly. Its jaws, filled with rows of serrated teeth, opened in a silent snarl, revealing a forked tongue that flicked in and out with predatory intent. Jax and Kai, their hearts pounding with adrenaline, instinctively reached for their weapons. They knew that they were no match for this creature in a direct confrontation, but they were determined to fight for their survival. The creature lunged, its claws raking the air. Jax dodged just in time, the beast's razor-sharp talons narrowly missing his chest. Kai fired his pulse rifle, the energy bolts sizzling as they struck the creature's thick hide. The creature roared in pain, its eyes blazing with fury. It turned its attention to Kai, its massive jaws snapping shut just inches from his face. Kai rolled out of the way, narrowly avoiding being crushed in the creature's powerful grip. The battle raged on, the two humans desperately trying to fend off the relentless attacks of the monstrous reptile. Their weapons had little effect on its thick hide, and their strength was waning with each passing moment. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a flicker of light appeared on the horizon. It was the beacon, its faint glow cutting through the darkness like a lifeline. The creature, momentarily distracted by the sudden illumination, paused its attack. Its massive head swiveled towards the source of the light, its eyes narrowing as it tried to comprehend the unfamiliar sight. Jax and Kai, seizing the opportunity, scrambled away from the beast, their bodies aching but their determination unwavering. Anya and Finn, seeing the beacon reflected in the distant clouds, knew that Jax and Kai had received their signal. They quickly calculated the trajectory needed to reach their comrades, and with a burst of the pod's remaining fuel, they launched themselves into the swirling chaos of the gas giant's atmosphere. The journey was treacherous. The pod bucked and swayed as it navigated through turbulent winds and blinding lightning storms. Anya and Finn, strapped into their seats, held on for dear life, their eyes fixed on the faint glow of the beacon that guided their path. Meanwhile, Jax and Kai had managed to put some distance between themselves and the creature. They stumbled through the darkness, their suit's illumination providing a small sphere of light in the otherwise impenetrable gloom. The creature, its curiosity piqued by the beacon, followed at a distance, its massive form a looming shadow in the darkness. Its growls echoed through the swamp, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the reach of their light. As Anya and Finn's pod descended through the thick atmosphere, they caught the sight of Jax and Kai's lights in the distance. A wave of relief washed over them as they realized their friends were still alive. With a final burst of the thrusters, the pod touched down on the rocky outcrop, its landing gear sinking into the soft, mossy ground. Anya and Finn scrambled out, their hearts pounding with adrenaline as they scanned the surrounding darkness. Jax and Kai emerged from the shadows, their faces etched with relief.
"Thank God you're all right," Jax said, his voice thick with emotion.
"We saw your beacon," Kai added. "We weren't sure if you'd make it." The four Sun Surfers, reunited and alive, embraced in a moment of shared triumph over adversity. But their ordeal wasn't over. The creature, drawn by the beacon's light, was closing in. Its menacing growls filled the air, its presence a palpable threat. The Sun Surfers, their backs against the wall, knew that they had to make a stand. They had faced impossible odds before, and they would do so again. Anya, her sharp mind, even in the face of danger, had an idea.
"The beacon!" she exclaimed. "We can use it to lure the creature away!"
The others looked at her, their expressions a mix of confusion and hope. Finn, his eyes widening in understanding, quickly began working on a modification to the beacon, adjusting its frequency and intensity to mimic the creature's own bioluminescent signals. Jax, always the skeptic, raised an eyebrow.
"You think that'll work?"
he asked, his voice tinged with doubt.
"It's our best chance," Kai replied, his voice firm. "We need to distract that thing long enough to make our escape."
With Finn's modifications complete, they activated the beacon, its pulsating light now mimicking the creature's own bioluminescent patterns. The creature, its attention drawn to the irresistible lure, let out a deafening roar and lumbered towards the source of the signal. The Sun Surfers, their hearts pounding in their chests, watched as the creature disappeared into the darkness, its glowing eyes and massive form gradually fading from sight.
"Now's our chance!"
Kai shouted, his voice barely audible over the din of the storm. They gathered their meager supplies and scrambled down the rocky outcrop, their flashlights cutting through the gloom as they made their way towards Anya and Finn's pod. The journey was treacherous, their footing uncertain on the slippery rocks and moss-covered ground. As they neared the pod, they heard a deafening roar behind them. The creature, having realized the deception, was returning, its fury amplified by its thwarted hunt. The Sun Surfers, adrenaline surging through their veins, sprinted the remaining distance to the pod. They piled in, slamming the hatch shut just as the creature's massive claws raked the metal hull. Finn, his hands shaking with exertion, initiated the launch sequence. The pod's engine sputtered to life, its thrusters straining against the gravity of the gas giant. The creature, enraged, lunged at the pod, its jaws snapping shut inches from the viewport. Anya screamed as the pod lurched violently, its hull dented by the force of the impact. But Finn, his focus unwavering, managed to stabilize the craft. With a final burst of the thrusters, the pod broke free of the gas giant's gravitational pull and soared into the relative safety of space. As they watched the planet shrink in the distance, the Sun Surfers exchanged relieved smiles. They had survived yet another brush with death, their bond strengthened by the shared experience. The Sol Invictus, patched up and jury-rigged once more, made its way back towards Earth, the crew nursing their bruises and recounting their last adventure. The adrenaline had worn off, replaced by a bone-deep weariness and a yearning for the familiar comforts of home.
"I don't know about you guys," Finn grumbled, massaging his aching shoulder. "I'm starting to think a nice, quiet desk job might not be so bad after all."
Anya chuckled, her eyes twinkling with amusement.
"Finn, the engineer, craving a desk job? This is a new development."
Jax, leaning back in his chair, let out a hearty laugh.
You? Stuck behind a desk pushing pencils? I'd pay good money to see that.
Even Kai, usually stoic and reserved, cracked a smile. I doubt you'd last a week, Finn. He said, his voice warm with camaraderie. You're too restless, too curious. You need the thrill of the unknown, the challenge of pushing the boundaries. Finn sighed, a hint of wistfulness in his eyes. Maybe you're right, he conceded.
But a guy can dream, can't he?
The others laughed, the sound filling the cockpit with warmth and camaraderie. They knew that Finn was joking, that his love of adventure ran as deep as their own. As the Earth came into view, a blue marble shimmering in the vastness of space, a sense of anticipation filled the soul Invictus. They were home, battered but unbowed, their spirits soaring with the knowledge that they had once again defied the odds and emerged victorious. The Sun Surfers, their reputation cemented as legends of the cosmos, had returned. Their adventures had pushed the boundaries of human exploration, their courage and ingenuity inspiring countless others to reach for the stars. As they looked out at the endless expanse of the universe, they knew that their journey was far from over. There were still countless worlds to explore, countless mysteries to unravel, and countless challenges to overcome. For the Sun Surfers, the adventures had only just begun.